We're answering a trio of questions for you tonight. One about our favorites, one about the industry, and one about game conventions.
Welcome to episode 288 of the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast. Tonight, we're working to reduce our question pile by answering some of your questions that aren't quite involved enough to warrant a full podcast episode.
We're also going to be sharing more thoughts on how to save a world from burnt island games and reviewing both Slanguage from FoxMind and the card game with one of the longest names ever, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game from Office Dog.
First, we should introduce ourselves. I'm Sean, and here with me is Deanna.
Hey to all the bellhop boarders.
And of course, Mo, the tabletop bellhop himself.
Yeah, I am Mo Tuzano, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, helping you make your game nights better.
We like to record Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern here at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop, and we love it when people join us in the lobby, our chat room here on Twitch.
Now on to some housekeeping. First up, disclosure. Wherever you're watching or listening to this, any links you see are most likely affiliate links. Whenever you use one of our affiliate links, it costs you nothing extra, and it does help to support the show. Speaking of supporting the show, I'd like to point out that this episode exists because of the support of our awesome Patreon patrons. And if you'd like to join in on that elite crew, you can do so at patreon.com/tabletopbellhop. Lastly, let's talk about show notes. You can find links to absolutely everything that we talk about in this episode over in our show notes. As you're listening, if you find yourself thinking, what was that game they just mentioned? I wonder where I can find that. Remember, it is all in the show notes. Just head over to tabletopbellhop.com/episode 288.
We've got a couple of quick announcements to get through before we get to your questions. First up, for the locals and those looking to travel a bit.
We are now approximately 1 month away from our next board game bazaar. That's going to be happening at Hidden Trail on Sunday, December 7th from 11 to 3 p.m. And what we're looking for now are vendors. We are looking for people to sell games.
Now, the last time we did this, we packed the place. And based on feedback, we're doing things slightly different. This time, we're looking to get sellers to pre-register. And the goal this time is to market the event as a bazaar where people can pick up high-quality, well-taken-care-of games at great prices just before the holidays.
Now, reserving a spot only costs $5, which gets you an area which is 1/3 of the area's table size, with a maximum of 2 squares per vendor.
And as of right now, we do have some slots left.
As of earlier this afternoon, we had 19 slots left. To reserve a spot, email me, Deanna, at tabletopbellhop.com.
Note, reservations are just for a guaranteed table space. People are still welcome to bring games in to sell or trade, but you'll have to cart them around yourself.
Finally, for those who did attend our first event, we are going to be rearranging the table, so hopefully we'll have a better flow of people. And just in case you need further encouragement, Auntie Aldu will be there with coffee, tea, cocoa, and other treats.
I need coffee to fuel standing there and selling games all afternoon. I am so excited that she's coming out for this.
Next, we want to announce that we are going to do a live AMA for our next episode.
Yeah, so we're going to be recording that a week from today, the week from our recording time on Wednesday, November 12th. It's going to start at 8 p.m. EST. For those of you not watching on Twitch, that's over at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop. And we would love to have a full chat room for that.
AMAs work best when we get lots of people joining in live. So we're hoping that this early heads up will give you a chance to make plans to attend and join in live in our chat room on Twitch.
The Tabletop Bellhop team is here to answer your gaming and game night questions.
So tonight, we're actually going to try to reduce our question pile. We're kind of jump ahead by a significant amount by answering 3 of your questions. These are all great questions, but topics we didn't think would be enough to fill a full podcast segment or to keep us occupied long enough to dedicate a full episode to. Now, often when we get questions like this, I should almost say every time we get a question like this, what I will do is I do personally reply. The question will come in an email or I'll get it on social media or someone will DM me and I will reply. So it's not like these questions just sit in a pile and we ignore them because they're too simple or too small. We do reply to all these, but just these are some ones that I thought were worth highlighting that'll be interesting to share with our entire community and not just replying to the people as well. So just don't worry about sending us small topics. We are totally cool with them. Not every question has to be a big meaty topic for us to deep dive. And not everything has to be a game recommendation list where you want to hear about the best games to play with grandma.
Well, we're going to start off with some questions about favorites. First, Joseph Gruhl asks, of all the games you played, which is your favorite? Tabletop RPG, card games, board games? And what's your favorite RPG? Card game, board game. Also, Brandy Belmont asks, what's your favorite game style?
Yeah, so we technically kind of have 3 questions there, but they're all related. So I'm just going to lump them all together, and we're going to talk about what types of games are our favorites. And then, you know what? We're going to do one favorite from each of those 3 categories: card game, board game, and RPG, role-playing game. Now, we've said this a lot before in the past when talking about favorites, and we kind of say it every episode when we're sharing, our best this or our favorite that. Each game type has its own place, and I hate that the answer is kind of like it depends, but it does, because I think all these game types can be fantastic for different things. Card games for me are perfect when I'm introducing games to new people, or even more so playing with my extended family, as my extended family is very comfortable with traditional card games. Honestly, like, I love bringing card games up to my uncle's farm up in Campbellford, Ontario, because that group of people are very familiar with playing different card games. And they now look forward to us coming up going, oh, what card games do you have for us this time? Now, board games are currently my go-to. This is basically a board game podcast. We call it a Tabletop Podcast. We talk board games pretty much every week. And the biggest advantage board games have over RPGs is you can sit down without pre-planning. You don't have to plan ahead. There's no preparation. Even scheduling is easy. You just happen to have 3 friends together. Say, hey, let's break out a game, and you go. But I have to admit, my true love, even 8 years into doing Tabletop Bellhop, is still role-playing games. Even though I haven't run or played in one at all in 2025, they're always going to be my favorites. The breadth, depth, the amount of imagination, the amount of agency, the free will, the social aspects, getting to play a character, all of that to me is something you don't get from board games and card games. Though some do kind of cross the border now and then. So for me, it's going to be, I'm going to rank them in order, I guess, is card games, then board games, then role-playing games.
So I'd much rather be role-playing than playing board games. I just would. But alas, adulting comes first. So board games, and specifically for me, card games, deck builders by preference, take the place of RPGs as what I end up doing instead of what I would prefer.
See, I feel differently. I enjoy RPGs. Like, I've played in plenty of memorable sessions over the years, treasured memories, right? But my heart belongs to board games. When I'm at a con, what do I end up doing? Like, ideally, I'm playing competitive board games. And if I'm given my dithers at home, what I'm most likely to grab is a nice, chunky, strategic board game. I think card games would come next if you mean things like Ascension and Star Realms, and not CCGs, because I have to avoid those because I have no willpower and I would have no bank account. So that puts RPGs in third, which, it feels bad. I feel bad putting them in third because I still like RPGs. And I just love them all.
Yeah, like I said, we love games. We've said that many times. We just love games. You're picking between our kids here, right? I gotta say, one thing I'm realizing, I think, with Deanna, and one of the reasons she doesn't like RPGs as much and loves board games is she can't win in a role-playing game. There's no win condition. They're cooperative. You know how much Deanna loves cooperative games.
I do not play nicely with others.
Now, Joe also asked for our favorites out of each group, and what I'm going to go with for this is the what I would most like to play right now if it was blue sky. If I could have the space, the light, the crowd, we were all full. We have the people, the place, and all the components. And if it was blue sky, I'd sit down and play right now. Like, we're going to turn off the podcast. Let's go downstairs. It's all set up. Let's just play. Now, if you want some more discussion on how we pick our favorites, I do want you to check out an episode called Don't Make Me Choose. That's episode 283, because we actually talked a lot about how we pick our favorites and how we answer questions like this. Now, board games, this one hasn't changed all year. It's Anachrony. Though, honestly, I'm getting to the point now, it's been so long since I played it. It's starting to fade from memory. And Eclipse is edging its way up, but I think that's more. We got Eclipse to the table 2 times in the last year and had a lot of fun with it. So honestly, I don't want to bemoan Anachrony, but I'm thinking we got to play that next. So the next time we're like, epic game night, screw the reviews. We're not touching any obligation. I just want to play a game I love. I am going to set up a game of Anachrony. Now, card games is way more subjective for me. It's more kind of my feel right now. I don't have a favorite card game of all time. For years, it was Race for the Galaxy. It's been quite a while since I played that game. There's no hot deck builder I'm into right now. But I am loving the Lord of the Rings trick-taking game, which we're going to be reviewing later tonight, so I'm not going to say anything more about it now. Now, role-playing games, this will always be for me Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, with an honorable mention to Marvel Superheroes from TSR because it was my first ever system. But Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the setting, the rule system, the D100 rule system, and even the third edition with the weird narrative dice system I loved. There was just something, a special place in my heart for the Warhammer world, which is kind of twisted because the Warhammer world's just not a nice place. It's one of the first grim, dark RPGs. If I had to pick a specific RPG product, what I would love to play right now would be the 4th edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay starter set from Cubicle 7.
I'm amused by your warm, fuzzy feelings for all the grim dark.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't know. It was.
No, I get it. I get it.
Growing up,
because like when I was thinking about RPGs, like I'm old school. It's D&D. I don't play often, but the last few times I played in a convention, it was D&D, and I jumped into 5th edition at a convention, having never played it before, and I was like, oh, this is so comfortable. It's like getting back on my old bicycle. Like there's just something cozy about that. I think because it was my first system way back with Redbox in the 80s, like D&D always just feels right. I hate this question. Like I hate it. One favorite board game of all time. Like I can't, like you just said, we just had an episode on this. I cannot pick just one. The top board game pick of the moment, I've really been enjoying How to Save a World right now. I still think House of Fado takes my top of the year. I love Terraforming Mars, but I think I kind of replaced it with Earth. I want to play Marrakesh and all the Steffenfelds, and I love Trajan, but I haven't gotten it to the table in forever. I could keep going. For card games, I never get sick of Star Realms, so let's go with that. I feel like I'd happily play that at any time.
Well, for top RPG, Masks is actually still my top RPG right now. It's fantastic. There are a few super RPGs which I suspect might supplant it, but I haven't actually played them. And until you play, you can't. You just can't. You can't say it's going to be a favorite. Card games, because Mo has been talking about it, I started playing Ascension on the computer again, but it doesn't count because it's on the computer. Physically, DC deck building, still my favorite card game out there. And board games, honestly, is so hard, in large part because we don't play them long enough. We don't play them often enough or enough times for me to develop what I think of as a favorite. That being said, Anachrony and Eclipse are going to be fighting for the top 2, with Pulsar, which I have many times said is my favorite, really kind of being an honorable mention now because I barely remember it. It's been so long since we played it.
We need a Sean Con.
Yeah, we do. We need to, like, I don't know, we somehow, maybe in the Christmas break, we'll find like a weekend where, like, again, we'll throw out all the new stuff and just play well, I can't say throw it all though, because House of
No, but I mean, where we each could pick some favorites to play. That would be fun to do.
Like, we'll have Classic Con where we play our classic games, and then maybe we play some of the stuff that, we got crowdfunding that only played once, like, Weather Machine, for example. It's kind of interesting though, the way time affects what's your favorite. Like, I used to be able to answer this all the time, and I was always Shogun. I'm like, I can't even remember the last time I played Shogun. It did eventually get replaced by Anachrony. And I don't know how Eclipse slipped in there. I think it's just we played it, and I just had such a good time playing it the 2 times we played this year. Once was my birthday. I think the other one was Father's Day or something like that. And it's just interesting how the memory of the game, something being fresh, will definitely supersede thinking, man, that was the best game I played of all time.
Right. Like I picked How to Save a World because we played it this weekend and I want to play it again. And Trajan always comes to mind, but honestly, I cannot remember the last time we got that to the table. It's probably been 5 years. So how can I say that's my favorite game anymore? Right? Like,
yeah. I mean, Eclipse is just a fantastic meaty fantasy or sci-fi game that doesn't require the kind of lifestyle of a Twilight Imperium choice. Well, thanks for that question, Joe, and everyone else who contributed to that group of questions. Up next, we have a question from Colin Whiteaway, who asks, what's the most significant change you've seen in board gaming since you started to be the bellhop? Are we currently on a decline from the golden age?
So again, we have a bonus question. I don't know if we're going to stick with this all night. I can't actually remember. Someone that you like, I want to know this, but also, so again, I'm going to split this into 2 parts, and I think I have to go, like, I'm actually on the fence because of what's currently happening in the world right now. Tariffs are really close but I still think that might be a temporary thing. At least I hope so. So I'm going to have to go with the rise of crowdfunding. Now, technically, Kickstarter was around before we recorded our first episode. I backed my first Kickstarter many, many years ago. It delivered early and I got more than I expected. And it was a fantastic experience. Back then, I was blogging on the Windsor Gaming Resource. And you can probably even find that old post on the old blog. But since I've been Tabletop Bellhop, the big thing that's happened is Kickstarter has exploded as far as the gaming industry goes. Both the RPG side of things as well as the card and board game side of things, all forms of tabletop, and while the LARPs even have kind of exploded on Kickstarter. But now it's not just Kickstarter. There's Kickstarter, there's GameFound, I'm not even going to try the list now. They're just crowdfunding in general. It actually feels like we're at a point right now where to successfully publish a game, you need to crowdfund it. And if that's not the case, everyone's still doing it anyway, because it is a surefire way to get an idea of your print runs and how many you should produce and the interest in your game. And it is a fantastically cheap method of advertising that kind of beats out all traditional ways of advertising your game. Though you still have to advertise. Just putting it up on Kickstarter is not going to be enough. But to me, Kickstarter and crowdfunding has just changed the entire playing field. Where at first it seemed to level it, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Now, definitely the bigger projects, the bigger names tend to drown out the small publishers, which is kind of sad because it's the opposite of what crowdfunding was originally started for. But I don't think anything else has had an impact on the industry as much as crowdfunding.
And yeah, now we're seeing, I mean, specifically, I've seen a bunch on GameFound where they're just re-releasing classic games in these big, giant crowdfunding versions. And that's a trend. And I mean, yeah, definitely Kickstarter changed the landscape. You cannot argue that. You said it. I don't know what else to say there. It's that and all the current tariff nonsense are, I think, the two biggest changes that we've seen since we started the Bellhop.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of little sort of material properties changes and component changes that have changed things. But those aren't huge. They haven't made a massive impact in the board game industry the way Kickstarter has. And we can, and I think have done episodes on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. So there's no need to go into that here. But for changes in the industry, in the board gaming industry, there you just cannot beat crowdfunding as what has swung the
and
bar.
It's changed not just the way they market and publish games, but also the way games look. That we get these more over the top components, even in things that weren't necessarily Kickstarter stretch goals, because these Kickstarter games are just getting more and more visual. The hobby games in general, I think, are getting more and more visual and more silly high-end components and stuff. It's not bad or good. It's just it's a thing.
Yeah. Plus, crowdfunding has completely had the entire industry have to rethink the distribution model. That's huge. Like your average consumer doesn't necessarily see this, but as people who go to like game and trade show and stuff, there's a huge shift there that was originally driven by Kickstarter. And like I think another thing we're seeing currently is a lot more direct to retailer or direct to market, direct to consumer. Direct to consumer is the word I'm looking for.
Well, I think
that seems to be the big push right now.
I think consumers are seeing that sort of change and the changes in marketing because you used to be able to go to a store, whether it was Toys R Us or your local friendly local gaming store, to buy your games. And now you can go to your store to buy some games, but they may not be the games you want because those games may not be in stores.
They may never get to stores. Yes. They might only come out on Kickstarter.
And
I'm using Kickstarter.
Shifted to this
crowdfunding.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were still talking to you.
Yeah, sorry. I'm aware I keep saying Kickstarter. I mean crowdfunding in general. It's Q-tips.
I did pretty good today for that. No, and like that's the most recent shift we've been seeing in the industry, except for changing who's manufacturing the games, is the shift to direct sales from publishers. Almost every major board game publisher now has direct sales on their websites. And not only that, it's not just for the public, it's for the game stores. They have retailer portals. So the whole distribution model changing could be the next big shift. But I don't even think that'll have the impact that crowdfunding.
I don't think that's the next big shift. I think that's a shift that's already started.
Well, I think it's currently happening. Yes.
And I mean, it was well in place before Diamond self-destructed.
As for the second part of the question, which is the doom and gloom that people like to talk about, are we currently on a decline from the golden age? My first question is, when was the golden age? I always find that one a little rough. Like, when was this magical golden age for board games? Is that what's happening right now?
Yesterday.
Like was it the dawn of crowdfunding? Was that it? Was it in the middle of COVID when suddenly everyone was buying board games and all these publishers had orders they couldn't even come up with? I personally think the golden age might have been when the German game invasion, when the Euro games hit North American shores. That was huge. That was probably one of the biggest impacts in the industry. Was, instead of an industry being driven mainly by Germany, it suddenly became a North American market, and then the North Americans got replaced by their kids' games with hobby board games. Now, I will say we are currently seeing a decline in sales and in publishers that can't keep up because of the current trade war that the United States has launched against its former partners and allies. Just yesterday, Wise Wizard Games announced they have eliminated all full-time staff. They are now a company that is reduced to having to use contract work because they can't predict the future and what's going to happen next. And this is just like the first of many, many board game publishers, distribution companies, friendly local game stores that we've lost because of this trade war. Are things on a decline? I think they definitely are, but I don't think like the bubble has burst, and I think the industry will get through this. Just not everyone's going to make it.
And I mean, we've seen a couple publishers fold. We've seen people pull out of North America. It's already happened, right? Like,
yeah,
I agree. I think this is going to have a lasting impact on the hobby going forward. And I think honestly, I think it means we are past the golden age. Like, we're shrinking a bit. The industry is pulling into a defensive formation and trying to weather the storm. Like, right now, what publishers choose to publish is changing, and how and where they choose to publish is changing. And are we going to see another Renaissance period in the next few years? I don't know. But right now, everything just feels smaller.
So I would say absolutely, we are not in the decline of the golden age. We are past the golden age. Commonly, a golden age can only be seen in hindsight. You can't say you are in a golden age. You can say that was the golden age. A lot of sources, and I tend to agree, call 2000 to 2010 the modern golden age of board games, because that did bring in the Euro and really sort of explode the market as to what a board game was in the to the common people, to general consumers. They just had this amazing new variety of games available to them, so much more than Life and Monopoly and, your generic card games. So we're well past that. Since then, there has been this giant, I don't want to say glut, but availability of different types of games to people. Again, as Kickstarter and crowdfunding came, that changed again, but it was still that was more of sort of flashy change. It wasn't really a golden age. It was just sort of almost an industrial revolution because of the sort of the quantities that became available. But the actual, content and types didn't really change much. It was just a lot more games.
Yeah, what changed is that flood where you get 5,000 games a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was at the pact at 6,000 to 8,000 for a bit there. We've already seen that drop down to about 3,000, and I'm sure it's probably going to drop even more before it starts going back up. Yeah. And I would use the term glut. Like, it was a glut of games. There were a lot of things that probably shouldn't have been published or released that were released. So I'll take that extra step and say, no, I think there was a glut of games.
Yeah. So yes, we are long past the golden age. There may be another golden age. What might trigger that? Who's to say? Again, you can't really identify a golden age you're in. You can only look back and say, yeah, that was the golden age of board games.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the 2000s, right? Like, to me, that was the Euro invasion, whatever you want to call it. That was huge. It's kind of like, you can't think about a time before crowdfunding now, or you can't think about a time before Euro games. Like, nowadays, it's all here. It's pervasive. It's ever present.
Dan has always existed. It always has existed. It always will exist. It is finite and infinite all at once.
Well, just like the last episode we had, we were talking about Munchkin. I'm like, that's got to be 30, 40 years old. And they're like, no, it's 18 years. And I'm like, man, see, because that's from that time period.
I was like, it did not come out when I was in grade school.
All that time is like long ago. Like, I swear Munchkin could have been a game on my dad's shelf when I was a kid. It obviously wasn't, but it just seems like it's been here forever.
All right. Well, obviously, Colin, that was a great question. Got some good topic going there. Thank you. Now, our last topic for tonight comes from Brandon Jackson, who asks, what is your favorite regional con?
See, this is hard. Because we are tabletop gaming content creators. And some cons are absolutely phenomenal and amazing for us as content creators and members of the industry, and access to publishers and other content creators and insider info. And then other cons are just a ton of fun where we get to interact with people and have fun and play lots of games and relax and take a break. Even if we are there technically to take pictures and promote the con, but we don't mind doing it because we're just there having a great time.
Because I think when he says your favorite regional con, that kind of weeds out Gamma Expo or Origins. We're talking about the smaller stuff.
I don't know. I didn't know how to take regional con because it could mean so many different things. And how big's a region? Canadian, US? I don't know. But the one I was going to go with, I definitely fits the term regional con anyway. So, so just looking at all the cons we attend, is what I did when I read this question. And like, we have a local con that's growing. It was enjoyable the first year and it was interesting. The second year was even better. And I can't wait for it to just keep growing. And I think it's going to become a big thing. I think it'll be a regional Windsor, Detroit area con in the coming years. So like, part of me is like, I want to root for the little guy in the home team. But honestly, like every con I've gone to and all the ones we had, I think my favorite is still Breakout Con in Toronto. That's held at the end of March break. And there's something safe, comforting, welcoming, approachable, casual. It's just like a great time with a bunch of great people with a great game library. And it's downtown Toronto in a great space. I adore Breakout Con. And now I will admit, I might have still said this a year ago, but going last year, and I feel so bad because Deanna was sick and couldn't actually take part, but like to be able to be there with Gwen as her first ever board game convention was just something special. Like sharing a con experience with my daughter for the first time, left lasting memories, right? So like Breakout's always going to have my heart just for that. But yeah, I got to go with Breakout Con.
So I feel like again, I was thinking smaller regional cons, and I don't have much basis for comparison because like we haven't attended many regional cons in the States. But here in Canada, Breakout Con was definitely my pick. Like it's just small enough to be comfortable. There's no massive crowds. It feels comfortable and homey, and I don't know why, but it has always since the very first time I went there. And I'm like, it's the first time here, and I already feel like I'm at home. And I love their board game library. Their board game library is kick-ass. And yeah, and I can manage to get into most games. So it's just small enough to be enjoyable, but big enough to feel like it's worth the 4-hour away drive. We do have our local con, The Summoning, which I'm meeting with the people behind it next week to see what we're going to do to try and make it bigger and better next year. So I am excited about that, but I can't say it's my favorite because it's in growing pains still.
I think part of my problem is most of the cons I go to, I'm working at. I'm taking pictures. I'm attending panels to things. I'm shooting cosplayers, what have you. So for me, my favorite con, the one I have had the most fun at, is Queen City Con. Queen City is where I actually played games. I wasn't working. We weren't really being the tabletop bellhop. I was there playing role-playing games. And so Queen City Con is kind of my favorite regional con, even though we haven't been in God knows how many years now. It's an embarrassingly long time because that was where I had fun.
Yeah. It came to mind for me, and I actually ruled it out because it doesn't happen anymore. It faded. So I was like, Queen City was kind of awesome, but I don't want to tell people to do something you can't go do. It's like listing all the out-of-print board games.
See, I enjoyed Queen City Conquest, and we had a good time at Queen City Conquest, but not compared to my times at Breakout Con. BreakoCon definitely beats it, especially that first BreakoCon where the people we know from Queen City Conquest came. There were some lot of memorable moments there. Queen City Conquest was very, everyone knew each other but us.
Mhm.
Plus, it was in the US, and I'm never quite as comfortable as I am in the US as I would be somewhere in Canada.
I'm going to toss in one more bonus question because it will be super quick. Henry asks, why does Tapple the game use only 20 of the 26 alphabet letters?
Yeah, this one's pretty simple, right? It's the same reason Wheel of Fortune gives the guest RSTLNE every bonus round now. The Tapple wheel only includes the most common letters, or I guess it's probably better to say it skips the most uncommon letters. So there's no Q, U, V, X, Y, and Z. As honestly, coming up with those words for various categories would be kind of evil. Because what's really cool about Tapple is if you get a group that's good at it, you can play multiple rounds. Like you can finish the wheel, you can hit every letter. And I know most groups don't get that far, but when you do, it ramps up. There's what they call it a lightning round. Now everyone has to give 2 letters. And if you manage to fill the whole wheel again, now everyone has to give 3 letters every time. And while you're never going to do that if you're keeping in Q, U, V, X, Y, and Z, like there's just not enough categories in the game that have Z words that even exist. So if you did have those on there, you'd be missing out at the fun of that escalation. And I got to say that escalation is a lot of fun. I've only ever gotten a group up to level 2, which is a ton of fun to watch. No one's made it to level 3, but I know there's groups out there who have gotten further. So that's why
Not happening with me.
Yeah, that's why Tapple doesn't have those letters, is because it'd be way too hard.
I can't see playing Tapple that long. I'd be like, I'm done. All right. If you have a question you'd like us to answer, you can email questions@tabletopbellhop.com, or you can go to the website and click on Ask the Bellhop, or you're always welcome to hit any of us up on social media. And you can find us pretty much everywhere as @tabletopbellhop, one word. As Mo said at the top of this segment, we like all sorts of questions, silly ones and serious ones, short and simple, or long and complex. We love them all. Send them in.
Welcome to the Bellhop's Tabletop, where we talk about the games we've been playing and the fun stuff going on in our lives.
Yeah, so it's been a pretty slow week gaming wise. The kids are in the middle of midterms and have had far too much homework to be interesting and play with us. It's terrible. I can't get my kids to sit down and play games with us. And we're continuing to work on house upgrades. We didn't have any events this past week. So the only gaming we actually got in was on Sunday night. And it was a 3-player game of How to Save a World from Burnt Island Games, which we did talk about last week. So tune in into our last episode to hear our first thoughts on this game. Well, this time we decided to try it with 3 players. And there's some stuff I think worth noting. First off, 3-player was just quicker in always, both the downtime between turns and the overall gameplay time, which makes sense because this is one of those games where the gameplay time is very dependent on the number of players, and the time on the box lists the game as up to half an hour per player. And so far, even on our 2 plays, even though it's our first couple plays, it's seeming pretty accurate. Once the players have the mechanics down, so 1 less player, less half an hour max. Though this was even quicker than that.
So I talked about this last week. I really enjoyed our first play of How to Save a World, and I thought it was pretty good at 4, but at 3, it just sings. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, part of it was a second play with people who are already familiar with the rules, but I loved how quickly it came back around the table to me. Like, it was just enough time to plot my next move. It just felt tight and nice and quick.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Now, one thing I didn't find 4 overstayed. I didn't find it significantly better with 3, but it was quicker. Now, one thing I did like better with 3, though, was less competition for spots on the board, and more so, less chance someone would take the spot you needed to enact your master plan, your strategy. I found the game became less tactical than it was at 4. At 4, it felt like I was always reacting, going, okay, well, everything I wanted to do doesn't exist anymore. What am I going to do instead? Whereas this was more, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this. And if that doesn't work, I can do this. And even if it goes around the table, I still have options available to me, and I'm not having to restart from scratch every time it comes back to me.
Yeah, well, there are many ways that someone can take the thing that you're thinking of doing. I feel like there's more wiggle room in this game than most, especially once you move down to 3 players. So, like, I was usually pre-planning 2 options in my head, and the majority of the time I could find some way to make them work. I mean, I didn't win, but I felt like I was accomplishing my interior personal goals. I just settled the wrong targets.
Now, we did have the thing where the first player took that one spot every single time again. And first player never moved this game because Deanna was the first player and she took that spot. which was still felt off and kind of frustrating. This time though, when we were driving home, we were talking about the game after the fact. You did admit, or Deanna did admit at least, that this wasn't necessarily the best choice. You said like 2 or 3 times, so it sounds like.
So I was multitasking while playing because I was the one prepping dinner, and I will admit I did not always pick the optimal move. I cheesed out and said I take the first player spot again without bothering to work out if it was the best choice, and then I would take a look and I would go, "Oh crap! Oh, I should have moved up on that track instead and beat Mo to it. Or I should have taken this spot that I knew we just unlocked and I know someone else is going to take because it's hugely powerful." Like, there were multiple times when I realized my optimal move would have been to actually use the opportunity to choose first. So,
Right.
and yes, also I did not win. So is the first player spot broken? Like, I don't think so. And I think also it felt a bit more broken on that first play because I was comboing it with some other cards. So to the other people, it could have felt that way more so.
I think part of it is in that 4-player game, again, because you have less spots available, when one person is taking that first player spot, that means someone else is going to be last player and going to be very limited in what spots they can choose. And I know Mo was saying in the past that was how he felt, because with D being the first player, Mo ended up being the last player. And so every time he was stuck waiting until everyone else had their choice and then picking up the loss, picking up the pieces. Whereas with 3 players, because you've got that little more wiggle room, I don't think that was quite the case.
See, I actually felt like you take that first player spot and then it allows you to place at the end after everyone's gone. And I'm like, I'll think of something later. There'll be something cool I can do with that ship. And in the meantime, I'll get this little bonus. And it just felt like I could skip making a decision and figure it out later.
Now, I will admit there was a couple times where, again, because of the seating arrangement, I was that last player the entire game. And there were times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this thing. No, I'm not. Oh, no. Oh, the spot I was going to go is gone. It wasn't as bad as with 4th player. 4th player, it was actually very frustrating. And actually, I think that's part of this is that spot. Maybe it's not broken for the first player, but maybe it is for the last player. Like maybe it's overly punishing to the player in last, as well as being somewhat rewarding for the first player. I don't know. I still just didn't like the feel of that. But I need to play a game where someone doesn't take it every turn and see if it suddenly feels better.
It can't be that punishing, though, when you were the one that managed to win the game.
Yeah, but I think that was all for totally different reasons. And the fact that I predicted the game was going to end earlier this time and did a bunch of quick on the board points, not relying on end game scoring because I expected the game to finish. Whereas the last round, you and your mom were buying cards that didn't really help you all that much. Meanwhile, I was focused on getting things done early. If the game had gone longer, I don't think I would have won.
No, I explained why the cards I bought would have helped me. They comboed with something else and gave me points. But I know that at the time you thought I was buying useless cards.
Yeah, because this was much shorter. It ended on the 4th turn instead of what is 6th or 8th or whatever the last turn is. We were on number 6 instead of number 8. So 2 turns earlier than our last game. And because of that, the shield became the primary project. And it was very, very good chance that evacuation would have triggered. We were 1 cube. Like if we had drawn 1 cube of a different color, 1 pink or 1 green, the shield wouldn't have worked and we would have went with the evacuation. And it's interesting, and I honestly think thematic, that the game is designed so that those projects are more like the longer you play, the more chance the biggest project's going to be the primary project, right? The longer you play, the more time you have to build the laser, right? Or if the laser doesn't work, build the shield and so on. And I think that's kind of interesting. And again, the game's got a lot of things that felt thematic when you kind of look back on them going, oh, why does the game do this? Oh, that actually kind of fits the theme pretty well. And I found it really interesting that you had to adapt your plans. Like basically I shifted my whole strategy when the first time we pulled from the bag, the meteor moved like 3 times. And I'm like, whoa, okay, we already have 2 moon locations up. Like I feel like we're in the end game and we just started. So I completely shift my strategy to score as many points now as I can and get ahead on a couple of the tracks. So it was neat to see the difference.
And because of that random factor, that second game felt very different from our first game. Because the comet did, and it's random, the comet did come in so much quicker. And I love that our second play, we had a different end game win. Like it just felt good.
Oh, I said my first thought that I'm like, I need to play this again. I played it again. It's better. Like I enjoyed it. Like, yes, I think the player count is a little better. I didn't mind it at 4, but I knew what to expect. I better understood the abilities on the cards. I realized just how useful boosts are. I knew why I might want to collect one tag over another. I realized the importance of doing the research action. While I admit the first play was fun, the second was definitely just a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, again, How to Save the World is just a solid game. Like, I just want to play this again. I wanted to sit down and play it a second time that night. So if it hadn't been getting late and it was a school night, I would have been like, now.
All right, well, that's what we've been playing lately, and we've been chatting a lot in our Discord as well. So if you've got something you want to tell us about that you've been playing or you've been up to, hop into our Discord at discord.tabletopbellhop.com and let us know what you've been up to as well. Are you up with the latest lingo? Do you jive what peeps are laying down? Hip to the latest cant? Prove you aren't square in the party game Slanguage.
Slanguage is a party game of slang words. It comes from FoxMind Games, who we do have to thank for sending us a review copy. This party game plays 3 to 8 players, with games taking 20 or 30 minutes or so. Well listed as being for ages 10 and up. The problem with that is I don't know many kids with a good enough vocabulary, especially that know older terms, to really dig this game. Though they may have fun playing, they just probably won't do so well in the game.
Now, when you hear slang-based party game, you're probably assuming this is a game about guessing the definitions of slang words, or maybe guessing words from a definition, and you would be partly right. But Slanguage is actually more than that, as it combines guessing with drawing and pitch-based improv and a bit of trivia, as you're also trying to guess the decade that a particular word was the most popular in.
Now, physically, Slanguage comes in a small box with a low price point to match. You get a set of 8 dry erase boards, markers, and a ton of cards with slang words from the last century on them. These are two-sided, one side having the word, the other a definition and the word used in a sentence, along with the decade in which it was popular. There's also player pawns, a scoring track, and a custom die.
Now, this custom die is what makes this game stand out from other word guessing definition games. On each turn, as the guesser, the person who's active, is going to roll the die. Sorry, the judge, not the guesser. The judge is going to roll the die and then figure out what game you're actually going to play, because Slanguage actually includes like 6 different word-based mini games. And the first is the what you'd expect. It's write a definition of the slang word. So everyone has to write down what they think the definition is. This one's much more interesting, which is come up with a song name or band name that uses the slang word. Next is to draw an image or symbol representing the word. Another fun one is come up with a movie or TV show that matches the description of the slang word. Or you reverse it, you get the definition, drawing a card from the bottom of the deck and only reading the bottom, and then everyone has to guess the word and also use it in a sentence. Finally, one of my favorites is create a tagline for a product or service that matches the definition of the slang word.
Now, once the die is rolled, the active player either presents the slang word or the definition of it, depending on which mini game you're playing, and then everyone else has 2 minutes to do whatever it is that's required. Oh, and while they're doing that, they also need to guess what decade they think the word was the most popular in and write that in the spot provided on the whiteboards.
Once everyone is done, you go around the table with people presenting their answers. The active player awards the player that had the best answer the slang card, which is worth 3 points. Then everyone who got the decade correct also gets a point.
Now, one interesting thing there is they are doing this before they look at the back of the card to find the true definition. Now, play continues with every player acting once in a 6 to 8 player game, or everyone getting to be judged twice with 5 or less. At the end of that, you look at the scoring board. Whoever has the most points wins. Now, what I really dig about this game is that random roll of the dice. It's the fact that it's really kind of 6 different word games in one. Like when I heard about this game, they first pitched it to us, I was like, oh, it's defining slang terms. And maybe, just maybe, it might be you get slang term or you get a definition and have to define them. But it's more than that. Like, I love that this has like drawing, coming up with songs and band names, creating taglines. I'm a particular fan of product pitch games. But Wait, There's More is one of my favorite games of all time. So I loved that in this, where you get a term like groovy and you have to sell a groovy product. I really dig that. I also like the fact that you're also getting points for getting the right decade. So even if you don't do so good on the definition or drawing part, you still have a chance to earn points by just knowing what year that word was most popular? What decade?
Yeah, but the part that annoyed me is it's not necessarily the decade where that piece of slang first saw use. Like, it's the decade
Mhm.
where it was most popular. And this came up multiple times where when we were playing, where I was like, I can't think of an example, but hey, that word was used when my mom was a kid. So it's from the 50s, right? And no, the game says it was most popular in the 90s. Like, it's a minor thing, but it annoyed the heck out of me.
Yeah, and it's where was it popular? That's
Mhm.
kind of the problem I see with this, because slang is very regional. So that can also be an issue, I think.
Yeah, I have no clue where they got their list from. Honestly, first use I think could have been cooler because that seems like more verifiable data and actual trivia versus like there were some terms that seemed way off to me. But hey, who knows? Again, it's a party game. And like and the thing I don't like in this game is the scoring because it's a party game. It's a problem with many party games is the scoring system, and this has one of those systems I hate the most, which is just favoritism, where you're like giving the points to the thing you like the most. I don't enjoy that. Now, the definition and guess the word mini games work pretty clear, right? They're pretty clear cut. If you guess the definition, no one else does. Though technically, the judge could give the card to someone else because it was funnier. I personally think you should give it to whoever the correct answer. But then there's a mess. If like, what if three people guess it right? Everyone has a definition of groovy, and you're like, well, I'm going to give it to the person I like the most because all three are equal. I just don't like that. That's just something I don't personally enjoy. We actually talked more about that back on Tabletop Bellhop episode 238, playing favorites. If you want to hear us discuss that whole system of playing favoritism on the table and having to choose between players.
Yeah, and we're playing this with our kids, right? Which makes favoritism even trickier. Like, I needed to say things like, well, you guys both had really similar answers, but I thought this part of hers was a little more amusing or better drawn, or she also got the decade right or whatever. Like, I had to justify my answer to keep the peace. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's like most party games, just throw out the scoring system and play it for the experience of having a couple laughs.
At least with, in some cases, however, at least when you're playing with strangers, that's a little easier. If it's
Yeah.
just a whole bunch of random people sitting down at a table playing a game when you don't know each other, the favoritism is at least lessened in that case.
Now, one thing that I do like about Slanguage, and especially with the fact of it's got the 6 different mini games, is that this is not a game where the player with the best vocabulary will necessarily win. That's the advantage of this mini game system, right? Only 2 of the play modes out of 6 are directly definitions and exact words, right? All the others are like creative and well, one's about drawing. That really helps level the playing field, and made it so that kids could enjoy the game even if they don't know the words, which I kind of talked about a bit at the beginning with the age limit of 10 plus.
Right. Like, there was definitely we played this with with 3 generations, and there was definitely words each age group recognized that others didn't. Like, there was things that kids knew what they were that my mom was like, no, I'm not sure, I've never heard of that before. But my mom, who's in her 70s, knew words that my kids did not know, right? And
Yeah.
it didn't feel too penalizing. Like, making silly guesses and being creative is the real fun here.
Now, one thing I look for in party games, one of my favorite parts of party games is that after round discussion. Like, you've done the thing, the mechanics, you've done the thing the game does, but then everyone starts talking at the end, right? You finish up a round and you're like, oh, why did you say that? What were you trying to draw there? You want to talk about your answer or someone else's answer or why someone drew a thing or how things are related. That's actually some of my favorite parts of party games. And that's definitely part of Slanguage, and I appreciate it. Though I found often the discussion was just about what year the terms were actually popular in, as Deanna mentioned before. And I know people at the table have grabbed their phones to look up slang terms and when they were first used.
I want to justify that what I wrote down is correct. Gosh darn it. Y'all are wrong. The card is wrong.
Yeah, I think
That happened, yes.
This one, because there is that fact-based aspect, even when you've got all the creative stuff, there is going to be a trend for people to say, no, I clearly remember using that word all the time when I was in grade 8. Or whatever. And again, because we don't know much about where this data came from or anything, what regions it was from, maybe you used groovy in LA back all the time in 1970s, but the people in Topeka had never even heard it until 1985. Who's to say?
Overall, I don't know. Slanguage is good for what it is. Like it's a word based party game about slang terms. That's more than just providing definitions, which is what I like about it. There's laughs to be had. There's even a bit of educational elements there. Well, I don't love the scoring. What I actually like to do is swap out the decades so they're worth 3 and the cards are worth 1. But then that puts so much weight on that, and people argue about that part. So who knows? We said it before. It's a party game. Like, who really cares who wins? Go around the table twice. Maybe you rack up the points and bragging rights, but I wouldn't worry too much about who said what or who got how many points or how many cards.
So I can say this game has been quite popular at our Walkerville Brewery game nights. It's the right kind of game for that setting, and it's also perfect for the beer and pretzels game night. For a casual party or get together, I can totally see playing this with family or friends. And when you get those strangers together, it really makes the favoritism a non-issue completely.
Yeah, if you like word-based party games, you're probably going to love this. And if you don't like word-based party games, you're probably not going to love this. Though if you don't hate word games, you might want to give this a try. It's the fact that it's those 6 different types of play combined into one game that makes this feel fresh and interesting. And you're not locked into that whoever's memorized the Scrabble dictionary kind of feel of whoever knows the most definitions, because that's not going to come up all that often.
Now, it's totally possible, if you wanted to as well, that you could house rule this, take the dice out, and just pick your favorite mode. If you only want to play it as a pitch game, go right ahead. If you only want to do a drawing game, go right ahead. It's totally accessible for that sort of play as well.
So thanks again, FoxMind, for giving us a chance to check out Slanguage. Like, I think most listeners, most people here know that we generally prefer heavier, more involved games at our table, but we don't mind tossing in something super casual now and then. And party games are great for our public play events. So what's a party game you think we should check out that we haven't covered yet? Is there something you know our fans would love, something to go over great at a brewery or a really cool themed escape room place? We'd love to hear about it.
Let us know in the comments. Send us an email, reach out on social media, or better yet, post something over on our Discord at discord.tabletopbellhop.com.
Well, next I want to talk about Java, Joe, Rocket Fuel, Brain Juice, Dirt Water, High Octane. You know what I mean, coffee. One thing you can do to support us, keeping us caffeinated and motivated, is by buying us a coffee through tabletopbellhop.com/coffee. Sometimes it feels like the longer the board game title, the better the game, or at least that's the case with Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, which we're going to talk about in this spoiler-free review.
So this campaign-based cooperative trick-taking card game represents the first book of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Fellowship of the Ring, as a series of 18 chapters to be played through with 1 to 4 players. Each chapter consists of 1 or more hands of cards and usually takes under 20 minutes to play through, win or lose.
This Tolkien-inspired card game is published by Office Dog and is being distributed in North America by Asmodee. We have to thank Asmodee Canada for hooking us up with the review copy. The game was designed by Brian Bornmuller and features amazing artwork and graphic design by Elaine Ryan and Samuel R. Shimoda.
The game comes in a beautifully illustrated, long, thin cardboard box that is divided into 3 sections, 2 of which are sealed off. The open section includes a set of cards and everything you need to start the campaign, including some really nice silk-screened wooden tokens. Each section also includes a silk ribbon used to denote where you are in each section. The sealed areas are meant to remain closed until you are told to open them through play.
Yeah, this is a campaign game, but don't worry, this isn't a full-on legacy game. There's no ripping, tearing, folding, writing on, or in any way destroying the components in the game. In general, as you play, you're both going to be adding new cards into play and removing cards from play, with some cards that will actually kind of bounce in and out between different campaigns as you progress through the game's various chapters.
The main deck in the Fellowship of the Ring Trick Taker consists of 37 cards. There are cards numbered 1 to 8 in 4 different suits: hills, mountains, forests, and shadow. And then there are also 5 ring cards numbered 1 to 5.
You start each game by choosing which chapter to play and referencing the appropriate chapter card. This will tell you which characters to use for that game, your victory conditions, and any special rules. Find the character cards and place them in the center of the table. While you are expected to play the chapters in order and shouldn't move on to a new chapter until you complete the one before, there's no reason not to go back and replay chapters you've already completed.
Now, at the start of each game, the main deck is shuffled. 1 card's flipped up onto the front of the table. That's called the lost card. Then the remaining cards are dealt out to all the players. Then you're going to find out who has the one ring cards. Of course, the one ring is the most important card in the game. That player becomes Frodo, the ring bearer. I wonder why. They take the Frodo card, put it in front of them. Then, going clockwise, the other players choose which characters they will play for the coming round. Now, each chapter will have a required list of characters you must take, and there's always a couple extras. So it's kind of interesting, as you must take the required characters, but the others are optional. And there are definitely some optimal and suboptimal choices to be made here.
The character you choose is going to determine your win condition for that round. And you get to look at your hand first, which I think is an important detail here, as knowing your cards is definitely a deciding factor in picking who you want to play. Now, please note, you aren't allowed to share any information about your cards with the other players, so you have to choose a character without any input from the other people at the table.
After everyone has a character, then you go back to Frodo and go around the table, activating each character's setup action if they have one. There are a wide range of these. Many will allow players to trade cards with specific characters face down, and others will interact with the lost card and more.
Now you're ready to play the actual round of the Fellowship of the Ring, which uses standard trick-taking rules. Frodo starts with the lead. After a card is led, all other players must follow suit if they can. If they can't, they can throw off. Now you can't lead a ring card until someone throws a ring as an offsuit card, and the one of rings can win any trick. Or it can just be considered any other ring card, just the one of rings. The highest card in the led suit takes the trick, unless someone plays that one of rings and chooses to use that to take the trick.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. Each character has specific goals that they must meet in order to win the chapter, and those goals will be based on taking or not taking tricks. You win if all of the players fulfill their character requirements, and you lose if even just one player fails to fulfill their character's requirements.
Now, these actual requirements vary. For example, Frodo must win a certain number of ring cards through tricks. Pippin must have collected the least number of tricks at the end of the round. Gandalf must win at least one trick, but can win any number, and so on. Now, if you complete all the active characters' goals, congratulations! It's time to move on to the next chapter. Or, if you'd like, choose another chapter you've already completed before moving on.
Now, each new chapter you unlock or get to is going to give you a new list of characters, potentially new victory conditions. You'll also unlock new types of cards and new game mechanics, and add new character goals. Now, for example, in Chapter 2, don't worry, this is spoiled right in the rule book, so I'm not giving you away anything that you wouldn't know already. You unlock a new deck of cards called the Threat Deck, and one of the characters is going to be required to win a specific card in a trick, and that card is determined by that new threat deck. As you play on, you're going to encounter thematic events. You're going to unlock gift cards and chapters that are going to take multiple hands with different characters to beat. But that's all I'm going to say about any of that, leaving the rest of the game for you and your group to discover on their own.
And one last thing regarding how to play, specifically for when you're playing with fewer than the full player count of 4. So the rules are unchanged when you're playing with 3 players, though Frodo's goal does become more difficult to complete, and you will have less choice of characters because of the number of required characters for each scenario.
There are, however, some significant rule changes for when you're playing with 2. You use a ghost hand, which is built as a pyramid. That hand is assigned a character, and the player playing Frodo will control this character. When playing solo, you play with 4 characters, dealing out a 4-card hand to each, and then adding a random card from the deck to each hand after each trick until the deck runs out. The goals of each individual chapter don't change based on the player count.
So yeah, that pretty much covers the gameplay. It's standard trick taking where you're trying to win specific cards and specific hands or specific numbers of tricks. That's pretty much all to it, with a Lord of the Rings theme. It's pretty basic trick taking. It's straightforward. The only trump card in the entire game is that one of rings. It's very Tolkien, with amazing looking Tolkien artwork that is based on the books, not necessarily the movies. There's some cards that seem to overlap. There aren't a lot of cooperative trick takers out there, and honestly, I think this is the best one I've played. This is just a game with a lot of cool stuff going on that looks amazing. I think this is the kind of game where Tolkien fans are going to buy it just because of how beautiful it is and just to have the physical artifact of the game.
Yeah, I do love the card art. I know when we played it with their friends, Kat and Tori, they were both gushing over the look of the game. It's got a sort of stained glass Art Nouveau kind of look to it. Like it's quite striking. And I don't know, some of the characters look an awful lot like the people that played them in the movie, but then most of them don't. So I would say it leans more towards the books.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you're a Hobbit fan, if Lord of the Rings fan, you're probably going to be very interested in this. You have any interest in trick takers at all.
Mhm.
If you're not, I don't know if this is enough to change that.
Yeah, though the trick taking rules here are very straightforward, easily picked up by any traditional card game players, and also I would say probably a good for people who aren't familiar with trick taking because this is pretty simple. There's no trump swapping suits or changing the bidding for tricks or any of the stuff that you have in some other popular trick takers. Now it does remind me most of Hearts, but that's just because of the way rings are broken. You can't lead rings until someone else has thrown a ring into a trick. And there's even like a little token you flip for this. And while rings aren't bad, the way hearts are bad. I don't know. It's and then the various straightforwardness of the character goals are very easy to say, understand. That they're all very clear. I've never read a card and been like, wait, what's it want me to do? Though I will say they're not always easy to pull off. The chapter system is fantastic just in the way it onboards you because you start with this very basic, simple trick taking game with 4 standard suits and 1 bonus suit with 1 little special rule, but then you add new stuff. As soon as chapter 2, you're adding in that new threat deck. And yes, the game gets heavier, more complex, and harder as you go on. But each chapter adds so little that I find the progression is more like going up a Hobbit hill than, say, trying to climb Mountain Doom.
Yeah, when we played this with Kat and Tori, like they play a lot of trick takers, we play a lot of trick takers. So the mechanics were very easy to pick up, and we sort of waltzed through the first few scenarios. I suspect that might be a similar experience for anyone who's skilled at trick takers. But by the time you're getting into chapter 4 or 5, things are heating up a bit. It's quite gradual, as you just pointed out, but the game gets more complex, and it's a welcome progression. I mean, this is a co-op game, and as with most co-op games, the hallmark of a good one is getting stuck or losing now and again and wanting to give it just one more shot.
I think it's worth noting that this game is shockingly well rated.
Mhm.
It is in the top 300 for all games on Board Game Geek and number 26 in family games. Now, while people love the crew as well, this theme in particular tends to track really well with hardcore gamers. So I think that is certainly helping its ranking.
Yeah, I will admit the individual hands in the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring trick taking game does remind me of the crew. Though this only has 18 chapters and not 50. So maybe you're getting a lot more replayability about the crew, but just somehow it feels more thematic. I'm more invested in each game. There's more of a feeling of progression, whereas the crew just felt like random arbitrary goals each game and random complications. I didn't feel like I was learning a story out in space, whereas here I feel like I'm playing along with the elements of the Lord of the Rings, though sort of, because there's for a Lord of the Rings game, there is surprisingly little flavor text. There isn't a lot of stuff here saying what's happening and why these characters are there or what part of the book it represents. You really don't get that. You just kind of get a thing like a little delay in the Shire.
I think the biggest difference between this and the crew is the fact that you pick characters that have different win conditions. And having seen your hand, to me, that was the biggest feel in gameplay that made it different.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is part of it because the crew, it's just here's your goals, where you're actually setting your goals by which characters you pick based on your hands, which is a huge part of the game. Now, as for the flavor text and that, like I know Lord of the Rings, I've read the books, I've watched the movies. I'm not as intimately familiar with it as say our friends Kat and Tori, or even Deanna, who more recently read the books to our kids. I knew what was going on, so it didn't really bother me. But the one good thing about there not being a lot of tie into the story directly is that you don't need to really know the books, I don't think. The actual character goals and characters are based on the books, and the events do recreate key moments. I just expected like reading chapter 1 card would be paragraphs from the book, or at least a summary of the chapter from the books, and it wasn't. It was just like, you're in the Shire, here's the characters involved. Go win your trick taking game.
Yeah, I mean it's got the Lord of the Rings IP, which is so story driven. I did think it would have more story elements. It just has these nice thematic tie-ins for folks who are already Lord of the Rings fans. And if you haven't read the books or I guess seen the movies, this isn't really going to tell you too much of the storyline. Also, like Mo was just saying, if you have zero Lord of the Rings knowledge, I would say the game is still very playable. Like, no pre existing understanding of the setting is required. And I mean, I am a Tolkien fan and have been since like fourth grade, so it's kind of hard for me to judge. But I would say it's still a good game, even if you have no clue what's going on story wise.
The other thing I found with this one is I can't just play once. It's the Lay's chip of cooperative trick taking games. We've never sat down and just played a round of the Fellowship of the Ring trick taking game. Every time, and it's not like two; it's like 4 or 6 games. Now, part of that is the game's not too easy. Like Dee mentioned, any good cooperative game needs to be challenging. And there's always that we almost won, and I love cooperative games that give you that we almost won, and I need to play again. Because this does require smart play to win. You're not going to win because of the hand of cards you're dealt. Nor did it feel like the cards were so random that there was no possible way to lose, which is a kind of side point. But usually when you lose, it's either it was really close, let's try again, or you did something dumb. like a very obvious error was made, and like you're 3 cards into the hand, you're like, let's just throw it. Never mind, I screwed up. There's no possible way I can win the 3 because it's in my dang hand or whatever. Those kind of things do happen. This is one of those games where we just keep playing. And honestly, what usually happens, we play till we win. And then we'll try the next chapter once and be like, okay, now we'll come back and play chapter 6 next time.
And I mean, it's cards. There's some randomness. Every once in a while, the cards are just against you, and it is not going to happen. But I mean, I think the other reason we end up playing 6 rounds every time we break this one out is it's a quick little game. Like you said, it's like, 15, 20 minutes. Like a traditional card game, like it's based on, you can play a hand out in just a few minutes, and playing multiple hands in a sitting just feels right.
Yeah, and I honestly, I find this. I haven't played this particular one, but we have played the crew together, and it was the same thing. We were paying 5, 6, 10, 10 hands in a row, and sometimes you realized, oh, wait a second, we needed to. Never mind. Let's just wipe and start again.
Yeah, and that is actually encouraged by the rule book. Like if you're sitting there and you figure out there's no possible way you could lose, you can finish off the hand early, or if you know you lost, you can close the hand out, and that does speed up the gameplay once you're in those particular situations. See, I don't know. I like this a lot. This is good. This is I love trick taking games, and this is like I honestly think the best cooperative trick taker I played so far. And it's beautiful in Lord of the Rings. Like I just love it. I want more people to play it. I'm actually hoping this gets a generation of Tolkien fans into modern trick takers. Maybe I'll get some trick taking fans to check out Middle Earth too. I don't know. Like, if you like trick takers, just pick this up. Like, and if you like Lord of the Rings, pick this up. If you're shopping for people who like trick takers or Lord of the Rings or both, this is going to make a great gift this season. If you like cooperative games, yeah, pick this up.
Now, if you don't like trick taking games, I'm sorry to say you probably won't be won over by this one. It is a very pure trick taking game at its heart with some fun twists and turns. But if you don't like that core trick taking game loop, I don't think those twists and turns are going to be enough to win you over.
Now, one thing I do know for sure is I can't wait to get the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers trick taking game, a slightly shorter name. That's the follow up. That is going to cover the next book in the trilogy. And like they even kept the numbering, like chapters 1 through 18 are in this game, while the next game is going to have chapters 19 through 36, which if you do the math is another 18 chapters to play through. So the same amount of chapters in the next box. It's also going to be the same box size. I don't know if the card count is going to be the same. And the other thing I'm not sure on is if it's going to be standalone, if you could just pick that up. I'm assuming yes, because this game is very much, you don't have to play it in order, though if you kind of want the story and the onboarding, you have to. You're going to want to. But it'll be interesting to see when that one comes out.
Yeah, I'm super excited about when that one hits. We are definitely hyped about this series of games. What's something you are hyped about? Is there a game that's coming out in 2026 that you can't wait to check out? Tell us all about it.
Are you a Lord of the Rings fan? Are you a Trick Taker fan? Or do you hate all this stuff? Either way, let us know. Stop by our socials, Tabletop Bellhop. Stop by our website, tabletopbellhop.com, or hit us up in our Discord at discord.tabletopbellhop.com. Well, that was the double bell.
That means our shift's coming to an end. We're going to have to lock the lobby doors.
Before we start locking things down, let's take a moment to thank some of our Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patrons, all of whom are awesome. Brian Van Beek, thank you, Brian.
Thank you, William Fisher.
Andrew Dacey, thank you.
Danielle and Owen Thomas, if you're listening still, thank you. And if you're not, thank you.
Thank you to Sean P. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Derek Hisson.
Well, while this episode is wrapping up, you can always find us at tabletopbellhop.com and all over the web as Tabletop Bellhop, one word. Be sure to subscribe on your podcatcher of choice to and auto-download us to never miss an episode. While you're there, be sure to leave us a review.
Now, a quick reminder, it is now, as of recording, the start of November, which means we're pretty much we're walking into holiday shopping season. So I encourage you to check out the tabletop gaming deals side of what we do. There we will be sharing the best US holiday game deals on tabletop games. And the best place to find those will be at tabletopbellhop.com/tabletop-deals. Tabletop-deals.
Now, I said it earlier in tonight's episode, and I'm going to say it again. Your questions fuel our content. Send us your game night conundrums. No question is too silly or too serious. If you have a question you'd like us to answer, you can email questions@tabletopbellhop.com, or you can go to the website and click on Ask the Bellhop, or you're always welcome to send us a question on social media, where you can find us pretty much everywhere as Tabletop Bellhop, one word.
That's all for us tonight.
For the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I'm Sean.
I'm Deanna.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you.
And game on.